Okay, we're live. Elliot, good evening.
Good evening, Derek. Good evening, Zimbabweans.
Good evening, Zimbabweans. And my name is Derek Tafuma of derektafuma.com. I'm here again with Elliot Pfebve. Yeah, we want to talk about the launch of the hashtag MyZimbabwe, which was carried out by the MDC Youth Assembly this afternoon in Harare. There were several disturbances today, most of which we're going to maybe touch on a little bit. So the MDC Youth Assembly chairperson made some remarks at the launch of the hashtag MyZimbabwe campaign. He said the following: I stand here to speak to you on this historic day as young people who are not prepared to bury the remains of the once great nation of Zimbabwe, owing to poor leadership, pure selfishness, and an old leadership worried about power than prosperity. More than 220,000 people have lost their jobs. The reason I stand here today is not to bury the remains of this great nation, but declare that we'll never stand idle and let the old die with our future like they did during the liberation struggle. We as MDCT Youth today bring in an action plan of liberating our motherland from the jaws of tyranny, from a government that sees it fit to purchase luxurious ministerial cars, among other luxuries. We cannot stand and watch this tomfoolery. History might judge us harshly. Posterity will be cruel to us if we fail to act. As a contribution to the protection of our rights as enshrined in the Constitution of this country, we are here to roll out MyZimbabwe campaign, a peaceful and legal protest platform whose main aim is to fight to protect our dignity, our national pride, and our identity. MyZimbabwe is hashtag MyZimbabwe is an opportunity for any Zimbabwean, regardless of political affiliation, to come and make their voice count, to tell those who stay in fancy hotels that we are tired. Let us fight for the full realization of the aspirations of which the liberation struggle was waged. And then it goes on. And then finally says, as Zimbabwe with jobs, good education, healthcare, blooming agriculture, industry, commerce, tourism, trade, and technology innovation, a Zimbabwe that invests in its youth, harnessing their entrepreneurial talents and allowing them to grow. My Zimbabwe, your Zimbabwe, our Zimbabwe, it is our unconditional responsibility to fearlessly contribute towards the reclamation of our Zimbabwe. Let's shout My Zimbabwe, the journey begins. I thank you. So those were the words, Elliot.
Yes.
Yes, what is your reaction to those words and also to the disturbances that have occurred this afternoon in Harare?
Again, good evening, viewers who have just joined us. I personally welcome the launch of MyZimbabwe as a platform where the MDC youth and citizens can rally behind a truly collective change. Again, I'm happy that the MDC youth did give prior notice to the authorities of their intention to launch MyZimbabwe and also the right to a peaceful demonstrations. And their demands were very clear. No to cyber bill, which intend to curtail the freedom of Zimbabweans to communicate freely in violation of the new constitution. And again, the old constitution. Again, part of the demands, the Zimbabweans and the youth are demanding jobs, the 2.2 million jobs that the ZANU-PF government promised them in 2013, which they haven't delivered. That's, again, point number 2. Point number 3, they are also demanding the end to police brutality. And of late, we've seen a surge of police brutality by the Mugabe regime. And they are just adding to the voice of the citizen that enough is enough. And again, we saw the demand by the MDC youth for an end to ZANU-PF rule. And again, it was very clear that they were demanding Mugabe must go. That is a very peaceful, it is within their constitutional right to demand so. And I think we must applaud the youth for making such a bold move and a bold pronunciation. And it is in line with the MDC's motto of a peaceful, democratic dispensation. And let me also repeat that for the past 17 years, MDC have been preaching the gospel of peace and stability and a peaceful transition to a free and fair election to achieve a Zimbabwe that is fair and prosperous. And I think every Zimbabwe out there needs to applaud that.
Okay, that's if you look at, for example, what you've just mentioned there, that the youth have been looking at, you will find that it's the same things that we've been talking about last week or the week before that, and that includes alignment of the constitution, which is long overdue, including electoral reforms, the Cyber Bill Act, which seeks to curtail the freedom of expression of the citizens, and also police brutality, which to me it's a bit strange that instead of I mean, the youth are actually were marching against police brutality, but were met with more police brutality. What is your comment on that?
Yes, I think people need to understand, if you look at the so-called violence that happened today, we didn't see any violence against innocent civilians. We didn't see any violence against either businesses, whether the businesses were for people who are linked to the ZANU-PF. We didn't see that. What we saw were that the youth were responding to police brutality. So if you look at it, yes, we've got a few police cars that were torched, and these were the same cars that were carrying police who were beating up the youth. So this was a reaction from the youth in self-defense in itself, rather than a youth that was undisciplined and on a path for destruction. So I would say, look, we have always said for the past 17 years that yes, we, the MDC, we are a very peaceful party, and we continue to be, and we have walked the talk and up to now. But yes, this is our generation. Our generation is a peaceful one, and ZANU-PF has been taking advantage of us. But we have been always pronouncing that, just like Derek Bell said, the problem with passive resistance is that it doesn't have a formula. Today, my generation, our generation must understand the meaning of a peaceful resistance. A new generation might not. They might be totally impatient and totally confrontational. We haven't arrived at that as yet, because even today's demonstration have shown that the youth still respect the rule of law. Some of the laws are archaic and very oppressive. But what we are saying is, let this regime engage with our generation when there is still time. They will come when a new generation might not understand the passive resistance. And we cannot be held responsible for dragging on, oppressing the people of Zimbabwe. And this is the time for us to engage and this government to realize that its time is up. It has lost the mandate of the people of Zimbabwe. And the only honorable thing is for them to agree to a peaceful transition where we can have a truly aligned of the electoral reforms, which will usher a free and fair election, which we have always been pronouncing, not this rigging of elections year after year, without even having any strategies to turn around the economy or any strategies to bring about the prosperity to Zimbabweans. So yes, I would say this was not in any way a violent protest. This was a peaceful protest, and it will remain a peaceful protest. And we call upon all people out there, whether youth from MDC, citizens, other political parties, that we need to be very clear that we don't want another Somalia, we don't want another Libya, and worse still, we don't want another Syria. We want peaceful demonstrations. But let it not be mistaken that our peace-loving initiatives does not necessarily mean that we are cowards. We have got the capacity. We've got the capacity to free ourselves, and we have got the capacity to free all Zimbabweans, including ZANU-PF. And freedom will come, and indeed it will come.
Okay. So one of the observations that I've made is that in all of what has been happening so far, unless if there is a death of a high-ranking official and there's a funeral at the Heroes Acre, then maybe that's when you can get a comment from the president, or otherwise there is no comment. What should the government be doing now? Because should they not be talking to the people? Should they not be addressing the problem? Or do they think it's just a small, it's just a few people making a lot of noise?
I think you'll find this is synonymous of all tyrants all over the world. They go the same way. They are deaf to the voices of reason. Fortunately, within Zimbabwe, we've got political parties. So it's not that there are no structures to talk to. Yes, we've seen other countries, for example, Libya was a very different animal, and that Gaddafi was so oppressive that he didn't allow any opposition parties. So there were no structures to talk to. There were actually boiling points, uncoordinated boiling points. Zimbabwe is different. We've got political parties, MDC, a part of excellency, the biggest opposition party in Zimbabwe, with structures spanning the past 17 years, which is also in government. So these talks and admittance and processes can even start in parliament, because in parliament, we've got the opposition as well. So what we are demanding from this government is an admittance that they've failed, and indeed they have. And do so honorably, to call upon. Yes, I know I welcome the voice of the elders, the former presidents of Africa, who have actually pronounced their concerns about what is happening in Zimbabwe, because it has got a regional destabilization effect. that SADC must intervene and to find a transitional solution for a peaceful Zimbabwe. And this is exactly what we want as Zimbabweans. And we hope, yes, the reason, again, going back to why the Mugabe is not commenting and whether he is going to comment, we know very well he is not going to comment. And he will just unleash more brutal force. At the moment, we are dealing with the police. Friday, we've got the biggest demonstration of over 18 political parties. You will not be surprised that apart from the police, he is likely to unleash the army as well. But that is not a solution. Suppressing peaceful demonstrators with the might of the gun is not a solution. It only exacerbates the situation. And we call upon Mugabe's government to heed the call for the people to step down.
Okay, I know you've already touched a little bit on SADC, but what should SADC be doing now in terms of the situation which is unfolding in Zimbabwe?
From the 26th to the 31st of August, various organs of SADC meet in Mbambane in Swaziland. From 26 to 27, Council of the Foreign Ministers will be meeting in Mbambane to prepare the meeting for the heads of state, which will be on the 30th and 31st. First and foremost, there's quite a lot that SADC can do, especially for its Zimbabwean situation. Given that we are no longer talking about a contained situation within the boundaries of Zimbabwe, this is now full-blown regional crisis. We've seen for the past 16, 20 years that a lot of Zimbabweans have gone to South Africa in their millions, over 3 million. So in every SADC country, in Botswana, Zambia, Mozambique, Malawi, again, all over Africa. Now, the situation is getting worse again. And this time, it has never been as worse as this, which means it is going to be a regional crisis, both socially and economically. So we are saying to the SADC leadership, you cannot ignore this. SADC has got the instruments to deal with the rogue elements within the member states. If you want to walk the talk, then start with Robert Mugabe, the 92-year-old president. Let's deal with Robert Mugabe once and for all. And I'm glad that Robert Mugabe is coming to Mbambane, Swaziland. I'm not going to preempt what we Zimbabweans are organizing, but I think it will be very clear that Zimbabweans all over the world, wherever they are, for the first time, we are united. We have rediscovered a powerful voice that will give a very loud warning to the government, and also that will usher a new dispensation for a prosperous, a new Zimbabwe.
Okay, great. And what about Zimbabweans? What is your message to them at this moment? I know a lot of them have been out on the streets. Some have got injured, brutalized. What would you say to Zimbabweans watching and those Zimbabweans at home?
I think it is very important that we always engage Zimbabweans with what we are doing, just like today in this talk show. But we've got words of encouragement to Zimbabweans out there who are languishing, toiling, some of them within abject poverty, that Zimbabweans, from the green hills of Chimanimani to the arid regions of Manenzini, from the impoverished valleys of Dande Valley to Malipati. We have discovered a voice. Let's use it. We are calling on all Zimbabweans, irrespective of political parties, groupings, church affiliations, that this is our time. If we don't execute a change whose time has come, then we'll live to fight another day. That another day might never be as easy and as straightforward as it looks today. So this is our moment. Let us not despair. Anywhere in the world, there's never been a collective voice that has failed against a brutal regime whose change has come. And this is our time. And let's unite and let's do it. This is our time. And I would like to tell Zimbabweans out there that, yes, we still are dealing with a very brutal regime. It's not over until it is over. And things are going to be tough. They're going to be difficult. A lot of people are going to be arrested. And this regime is going to be entrenched. But they know very well that their days are numbered. Our voice must be loud and clear. Our demands, very objective. Our unity, very purposeful, and we will get there. Victory is certain. Aluta continua.
Okay, I know that the hashtag MyZimbabwe, okay, is a brainchild of the MDC Youth, but we also have a hashtag Tajamuka, and we have a hashtag This Flag. Do you think these are complementary?
Indeed, these are.
Are they all seeking peaceful means?
Yes, I think we've seen This Flag, Tajamuka, MyZimbabwe. These are platforms, rediscovered platforms of people across the divide. The message has been very clear, and the message is the same, that enough is enough. So these are very complementary, as you have said, and we welcome those platforms. And all what we need to do is also to make sure that we work together in terms of making sure that the voice is the same, the demands are the same, the end game is the same. Only then can we achieve our goal. And ZANU-PF, we have no chance whatsoever. They can only have one chance, and that is no chance.
Yes, and I think lastly, do you want to comment on the National Transitional Authority?
Yes, we know very well. I know there have been voices loud and clear that we need electoral reforms. Yes, indeed, we need electoral reforms. But again, we know very well that this government is dragging its feet, and it is not going to put electoral reforms to legislate itself out of power. We know that. What we need, Zimbabweans, is together to advocate for a National Transition Authority. That is a form of caretaker government that will put together those electoral reforms and harmonize other laws, because we know out of the 2013 constitution that we all voted for, we're only using less than 25% of those laws, and 75% have still not to be harmonized. This is why we have got POSA, we still have AIPA. So we are saying that the government of Robert Mugabe is not going to harmonize those laws. It will cherry pick the laws that they want to use against its own citizen. And the best way forward would be to have a National Transition Authority a caretaker government that will prepare for a free and fair elections, where every political party is free to campaign, including ZANU-PF. We welcome them in their reformed manner to participate in a free and fair election. We want ZANU-PF to also to test their own medicine. So yes, that's the advocation of National Transition Authority. And I hope and trust that even the elders, the former presidents today, when they advocated for the intervention of SADC leadership for a settlement in Zimbabwe, they actually meant the National Transition Authority.
Okay, thank you very much for your words, Elliot. You've touched on the statement that was made and also the events that took place, statements made on the introduction of or the launch of the hashtag My Zimbabwe campaign by the MDC Youth. And also we looked at how it is basically looking at the cyber bill, is looking at the harmonization of the constitutional reforms that have been made, particularly in terms of electoral reforms, and also the fact that they were marching against police brutality, although we know that they were brutalized, and also there was retaliation, there was damage to property, police property, ZBC TV as well, I think. And you've given a clear message to government that they should try to engage with the people, and that SADC should they should take Zimbabwe seriously because it affects the socioeconomic environment in the region, and so it affects also their economies if the situation is left to run to run away on its own. And then you've also asked Zimbabweans to be resilient, to use peaceful means, to use the new technologies available to them. Are there any, I just remembered one tiny thing. One of the ministers in government today tweeted to say that while you are wasting time with hashtags, ZANU-PF is preparing for elections 2018.
Well, I've heard that, and that is laughable. I mean, ZANU-PF, 36 years after independence, ZANU-PF at the moment with virtually no cash flow in the country, they are preparing for an election so they can win and do what? I mean, they have failed, that we know. And everywhere you look in Zimbabwe, it resembles a failed state. They can pronounce whatever they are saying, but we Zimbabweans, we are saying enough is enough. We don't, what this minister is trying to say is that they've got the capacity to rig the elections again, and we are not going to give them that space. There is no way ZANU-PF can win an election in a free and fair environment, given that every citizen is no longer a political party or the voices of political party. The voices have been amplified by citizens. The voices have been amplified by all the people out there in the rural areas. The voice has been amplified by youth. The voice has been amplified by students. Which people is ZANU-PF talking about? Who are likely to vote for them in power? That's ridiculous. What they are trying to say is that we will continue to rig the elections. Well, let them prepare. Let them prepare to rig those elections, and we'll confront them.
Oh, thank you very much, Elliot. It's been a good talk show. I'm sure some viewers will agree. We will be holding some more. We'll let you know when the next one is going to be, but definitely in the next couple of days. And we've come to the end. My name is Derek Tafuma of derektafuma.com. All my social media are accessible from the website. And Elliot, how can you be reached?
Viewers can follow me on YouTube by searching Pfebve on YouTube. They can also follow me on my blog, which is pfebve.blogspot.co.uk. They can follow me. I know a lot of them are already following me on Facebook. You can also follow me on Twitter at Pfebve. You can also follow us on hashtag MDC Diplomas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end. We'll see you in the next live broadcast.